Hey everybody, Professor Doom here, and I want to share with you this story. Also, a couple of phone calls that I made, and unfortunately, because I have a phone that is incapable of recording my phone call and allowing me to use the screen recorder at the same time, I'm going to show you the phone calls that I made, but I'm going to tell you what the conversations were because they play a huge part in the story that I'm going to be sharing with you here. Because there's something very interesting in this article, and there's something very interesting that is not in the article that should have been related to the investigation by the Office of the Inspector General that conducted the investigation, or the alleged investigation. Because if you guys know my position on this, I've already done a story about Mr. Jeffrey before. Yes, this guy right here. And you guys know my position is that these people were not going to allow him to go through this system and worry about him releasing a bunch of information that was going to release the dirt on them. Now, knowing that he could possibly damage a lot of people, they had one of two choices. Do you off him and worry that he may have given information that if anything should happen to him, that information was to be released? Well, then you can't do anything to him, can you? Now you're going to have to make sure that he makes an escape, aren't you? So you're going to have to fabricate a whole story. But how are you going to advise him that this is what you're going to be doing? Don't you send him a visitor? Because you can't talk about it over the phone, right? So you send him a visitor and explain to him everything that's going to happen, how it's all going to go down, how to protect his money so that he can use his money later after he's sipping Mai Tais in Israel or probably doing basket weaving in Bangladesh. Whatever he's doing, it's not anything that had to do with him putting a rope around his neck. That's my opinion. So now, let's take a look at the story that came out yesterday, and I'm going to show you a couple of stories that have come out over the years, and then I'm going to share with you the conversations that I had with the U.S. Attorney's Office and the Metropolitan Detention Center. Not to be confused with the Metropolitan Correctional Center. I'm not sure if I already mentioned this, but the Metropolitan Correctional Center had closed down in October of 2021 due to lax security, according to them. That's their reasoning behind closing it down. But I'm going to share with you the phone calls. You're going to see them. And I'm going to share with you the conversation that I had with the two individuals that I talked to. So, what is in here and what is missing? So, according to this story, the Office of Inspector General conducted an investigation surrounding the events of Mr. Jeffrey taking his life. Excuse me. And what has come out is that there was a scathing report, they say, that a staffer told investigators that he put Jeffrey in the shower area to make a call to his mother. So Mr. Jeffrey said, I want to call my mommy. And the guy says, okay, well, I'm going to put you in the shower because I'm afraid you're going to pull the cord and use it to harm yourself. Here's the problem, folks. Look at it again very closely. To make the call, because that location in the shower ensured Mr. Epstein would not be able to pull the cord into his cell and use it to harm himself. Now, in this story, it also says that when Mr. Jeffrey said he wanted to make a phone call to his mom, it has come out that his mother has been dead since 2004. The report of the Office of Inspector General says they now know that he talked to who they call Individual 1. The media is reporting that the individual is his girlfriend, who was named Corinna Shuliak. So what is the nugget that is in the story and what is the nugget that is missing? One, we have all seen the pictures that they have shown us of the cell of Mr. Jeffrey, and we saw that he had a breathing machine with a very long electrical cord. The whole story about worrying about him pulling the cord into his cell and killing himself is absolutely ludicrous, because you would have already known that he had a breathing machine and he could have used the electrical cord to do damage to himself. So you're lying. What is the other bit that is missing from this story? If the Office of Inspector General is going to find this kind of information, then why wouldn't they release the information of the mysterious woman who came to visit Jeffrey July 30th, just days before he allegedly offed himself? We know there was a mysterious woman because there was reports from other lawyers stating that this woman looked rather young to be a lawyer. And that, when I thought about this, I decided to make a few phone calls to find out a few things. So now, let's take a look at some of the other stories that have come out over the years that are surrounding this alleged event and why it was important that I make these phone calls. So, the story goes is that Mr. Jeffrey had made an attempt on his life before the successful attempt. And what we know about that very first attempt is that Mr. Jeffrey did not have a trust that was involved with his money, nor did he make that trust during that first attempt. It was only after he got this visit from this mysterious woman that Mr. Jeffrey created this trust to protect his money. Okay, so there's a couple of different reports. One says that it was 577, and there's a few others that say it was 578. Who's going to quibble over $1 million in this story? Let's take a look what we're talking about. So, August 22nd, this is when the story comes out. July 30th is when he gets this mysterious visit. All right? But they also didn't know about this mysterious visit. But just before he makes this successful attempt with bed sheets, when he already had a big long electrical cord with his a CPAP machine, is beyond me. That's why the whole story didn't make sense to me from the get-go. The will that disgraced financier Jeffrey signed just 2 days before his suicide puts more than $577 million in assets into a trust fund that could make it more difficult for his accusers to collect on. Now, they say that the details about the beneficiaries are absolutely veiled in secrecy. So, who exactly was this money put in a trust for? And if Mr. Jeffrey was still alive and the person that he made the trust for was to be able to acquire the money and just funnel the money right back to the individual who created the trust. Okay? So, right here, by putting his fortune in the trust, he shrouded from public view the identities of the beneficiaries, whether they be individuals, organizations, or other entities. Because I have spent quite a few years locked up, as many of my followers already know, I know the whole procedures when it comes to making phone calls in a correctional facility. One, that your phone calls must be monitored at all times. The only time your phone calls are not permitted to be monitored is if you are making a phone call to a lawyer. The lawyer has to be the lawyer of record, because you can't just When he's already been in there and he already has an established lawyer, that lawyer has to be on his on the record as being his attorney, and he can make a call to that person. Now, if you're setting up a call to an attorney to say, hey, I want to retain your services, they can monitor that. And then you just tell them what you've been charged with. And then once you've retained that attorney, then you can go to non-monitored phone calls. But as I said, the individual allowed him to make a phone call from a shower, as they say, because he wanted to make sure that Mr. Jeffrey did not use the cord to strangle himself. Okay, so now here's the thing. What was missing from that office of Inspector General? And the thing is that we already know that there was a mysterious woman, and there's no mystery, folks, because the phone calls I made was the procedures for visitations of a person who is being detained in a correctional facility to know what the procedures are. Do they have to provide ID? Do they have to, if they're an attorney, what credentials do they have to provide the facility staff? And you're going to find out what I found out. So Mr. Jeffrey spent hours alone with the mysterious woman in lockup, days before he offed himself, just a few days before. And as I said, the first attempt that was unsuccessful, alleged attempt, there was no trust created. The trust was only created after this woman, who they're calling a mystery, showed up to visit him. Why is this not a mystery? Because if the Office of Inspector General did an investigation and found that a phone call was made that was not being monitored, then there also should have been an investigation to find out who the identity of the female was who came to visit him, and we would be done with the mystery woman. But now through the investigation in the story, they're not even talking about this mystery woman whatsoever. That is a huge red flag. The phone calls that I made, let me show you. As I said, I could not record the conversation because my screen recorder was going on at the same time, and my phone is incapable of recording the both at the same time. Take a look at this. This is the U.S. Attorney, right here. U.S. Attorney's Office, New York. Subsequent recorded muted. Could not. New York, New York. Calling. I called. There's the phone number. If you guys want to call the exact same phone number that I called so that you guys can see that that's exactly where it leads to. Okay, there's one. Let's take a look at or not. Here's number two. And this was the Metropolitan Detention Center. As I said, the Metropolitan Correctional Center closed down October of 2021 due to the lax security surrounding Jeffrey's taking of his life. Okay? So there you go. Those are the two phone calls that I made. What did I ask them? I asked the U.S. Attorney, I said, when it comes to attorney-client privilege visits, is the entire law firm, are they allowed to come? And that's not the words that I used. Hold on a second. In layman's terms here for everybody to easily understand. When it comes to the attorney of record, are they the only attorney that's allowed to come visit them where their conversations will not be monitored? And they said, no, that's not the case. They said that yes, other associates and other entities within the law firm can come visit as a client attorney privilege conversations, As long as they are part of that same law firm, and as long as they have a secure pass or they are registered as a federal lawyer in the court system, that means does anybody know what a secure pass is? Well, that tells them that you are a lawyer in good standing in the state of New York, and you also have to be part of that law firm. If this investigation was going to lead and say that there was some mystery woman at first, well, then it would be easy to say that, well, during our investigation, we found that an associate was coming to visit him. Yeah, young lady, whatever. They didn't even touch that story whatsoever. You know why? Because just like the phone call that they said that he was allowed to make that was not being monitored, he got a visit from someone who was not part of the law firm that was coming to facilitate or to be a mediary between who was ever going to arrange his removal from out of there and to have all of his ducks in order and how it was going to go. And that's the reason why there was no mention in the Office of Inspector General's report about who this individual was. So I find it very interesting that you have to provide all kinds of identification to come visit if you are not an attorney, and you can't have client-attorney privilege. So the whole thing is why is the whole person still shrouded in mystery when it comes to who this young woman was? Because my opinion, it's call it a theory, whatever you want to call it. And you know what? When it comes to theories, here's what's interesting, everybody. You know, detectives, homicide detectives, as I've said this before in other videos, they are the biggest conspiracy theorists there are. First of all, well, if there's a murder, we have to look directly at the people closest to them first. And then they try theorizing in their mind how everything went. Do you know how many times people have been put in prison that were actually innocent? That was based on nothing more than a detective's theory? So the whole thing is that, you know what? All of the evidence right here tells me my theory is pretty good. When these homicide detectives, well, they've went after people on very flimsy circumstantial garbage. This is not circumstantial that we're looking here, folks. This is pretty heavy duty. And as you can see from the articles, this is what they left out, and that's what they put in there. They were worried about him taking his own life with some phone cord when he had a breathing machine electrical cord available in his cell. It doesn't ring true. If he has a mystery woman and the Office of Inspector General doesn't even mention it in their investigation, nor does the media even report on the Office of Inspector General even mentioning this mystery woman, there you go. Now you have it. All right, everybody, I think I've rambled on long enough. Professor Doom.